Is Nike's Vaporfly Next Percent 3 a better race day shoe than Under Armour's Velociti Elite for you? Well, I don't know. It is for me. And in this video, I'm about to explain why as I put these two head to head. Before we get to that though, watch this. My name is Aubrey. I'm a very average runner, simply trying to be less average by the day, as at the time of recording this, we've crossed that 3,000 subscriber mark, and that is very literally down to you guys. The question we're trying to answer here is, what is the better race day shoe between Nike's Vaporfly Next Percent 3 and Under Armour's Velociti Elite? Let's start with the comparison by giving you 4 very objective, not opinion measures that set these shoes apart. Okay, we're gonna start with the price. You can pick up Velociti Elite for £225, which makes it £10 cheaper than Nike's Vaporfly 3. The Nike Vaporfly 3 does something that I haven't seen any running shoe do. In a 9.5, it comes in at 208 grams versus Under Armour's Velociti Elite, which came in at 238. The next thing to talk about is the versions or iterations of the shoe. You see, this is Under Armour's first entry into race day super shoe categories. Whereas the Vaporfly 3, as the name implies, is the third iteration, which can only mean one thing. Lessons from version 1 and 2 are being brought into this. Not only that though, it quite literally says on the midsole of the shoe that the Vaporfly Next Percent 3 is the original super shoe. You can't argue with that either. And then next is the drop. And this is a perfect example or instance to use the expression, it's not about the size of the dog in the fight, but the fight in the dog. Because both shoes have 8mm drops. But the Vaporfly 3 comes from a 40mm stack versus Under Armour's, which comes from 36. Let's start with the opinion section, starting with comfort. Zoom X versus Under Armour's Flow. Velociti Elite doesn't measure up to the comfort that the Vaporfly gives you. It just doesn't. It might just be me, I don't know. But I would love for you to try it yourself. What Nike has done, what sort of wizardry it is, I don't know. But that comfort just can't be compared to most shoes. Okay, so let's flip that round. If you're after a firm, contact with the ground, higher return of energy kind of run feeling, the Velociti Elite. Just to be open with you, I returned my Velociti Elite shoes back to Under Armour. I returned it because I don't deem this shoe to be a half marathon, full marathon shoe. There are some people, there's a guy I like, his name is Mo from the running channel, and there's a lady who won, I think, the New York Marathon who wore it. So it works for other people. Whereas me, I am biased towards max cushion shoes, highly plush and comfortable running shoes. I didn't get that feeling in this shoe. Don't get me wrong, it's got comfort, it packs a kick. But I didn't get the feeling that I was expecting, or at least that I get from the Vaporfly Next Percent 3. The other thing is the outsole. I want to compare these two outsoles with each other. The Nike's outsole has the black parts, which is a rubber that is a bit more resilient, and it protects the midsole from wearing out thin as well as providing grip. What Under Armour have done, they've done away with the rubber and they've put in their super critical foam, which they call Flow, which acts both as a midsole and an outsole. So let's just call that their outsole. They got rid of the rubber for 2 reasons. One, to get rid of the dead weight, but it still weighs 30 grams heavier than the Vaporfly 3. The other thing is when you add on the glue as well as the rubber, it adds on to the stack height. Rules tell you that shoe can't go past 40mm, but they stopped at 36. So though all those kind of things, whilst I get the science, whilst I get this is a unique touch for Under Armour, it just doesn't give the benefit that I guess I was expecting given those 2 explanations. Let's move on. Next thing to compare is the stability offered by the 2 shoes. You do get a closer to the ground feel. It's a much more stable experience than the Vaporfly 3. Okay, let's talk about the tongues, and I'm gonna give this one to the Velociti Elite because it's a more standard tongue. Whereas the Vaporfly 3, both these tongues are not gusseted, so they're loose, they're not attached to the uppers. But the Vaporfly 3 is really funny in terms of the tongue. You have to fiddle about with it a little bit. And for me, I think that's definitely a tweak. Should Nike do Vaporfly 4 or even 3.5, do something about this tongue. Get it gusseted or something. The other thing, I criticize the Velociti Elite quite harshly because of its finishing. I think this was substandard in terms of how they attach the upper to the midsole, those joints. It just didn't look great. As you see the close-ups as I'm showing you, I don't think it's acceptable at 225 pounds. Now, you could say that was intentional. That's how they wanted to look. Fair enough. But for me personally, I think Under Armour needed to do better in the finishing of this shoe. Okay, so lastly, which shoe wins and which shoe should you buy? Depends. If you're just an ordinary average runner like me and you're looking to do your 10K half marathon or even a full marathon, comfort is going to be a big deal, especially as you start out with the running. If you're not an experienced runner, an elite runner, chasing PBs kind of thing, I would highly recommend you get the Vaporfly 3 instead. But if you're after a firmer ride, contact with the ground, return of energy, vavavoom, boom, I'm gone. But for a shorter distance, 5K, 10K, absolutely. Go ahead and get yourself a £10 saving and get the Under Armour Velociti Elite. Now, I know this is just a comparison. If you want to look at detailed reviews of both these shoes, I'm going to put 2 videos up. You can click on each one of these and it will take you to where I go into detail about these shoes. If you found this useful, please do consider subscribing. It would mean so much to me. And connect with me on my Instagram, aubrey.running, and I'll see you there.